So, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully that's got you all fired up with some questions. So, does anyone want to kick off? Or, oh yeah, Chris.
Chris, I'm coming down. So, still keeping in with the aviation theme. I was in the back galley there. Sorry.
It's lunchtime, I know.
Thanks, David. Chris Standard, Kyle. Guys, both equally inspirational, and I think, as you know, on behalf of Entrepreneurial Scotland, you know, thank you for doing what you do outside of business, in the public sector, and in a sort of non-traditional way. I mean, outstanding philosophy, outstanding implementation, and we can't wait, I'm sure, to see more of the impact you have. The question I have for both of you is, you know, we had a hunch that the entrepreneurial existed in other sectors. We went looking and we found, amongst others, we found you guys and brought you here today. How do we get everyone in your sectors to think and act like you do, and not act in the traditional way we're used to hearing of can't be done, no, you don't understand the risk involved, you know, it's the wrong thing to do health service wise, no, we have to go to government policy, we can't change and do anything. We clearly can, and you've shown it. How do we get everybody to act like you?
Thank you.
Can I go first, Rod? I think you're right to. I think this whole historic public sector, private sector hasn't really, in reality, been like that for a very long time. I've been a kind of round peg in a square hole, you know, for the vast majority of my career, and actually, you know, I've never really considered myself to be entrepreneurial, but actually, you know, someone who wants to work in an entrepreneurial system and an entrepreneurial culture. And that's where I've arrived. That's where I kind of sought that out without knowing where I wanted to go. I wanted to work with a group of people. But what I find is that there are more and more public organisations who want to do this, who want the permission to do this, who want to be able and supported through the risk of taking, you know, decisions like this. So I don't think that, in my experience, there's any shortage. I think what we as a system need to do is we need civic leadership, we need government leadership, we need the right to make those mistakes. And rather than, you know, a defensive and a blame culture, and there's too much of that. But I have no doubt in my mind that the talent in my own organisation is equalled in others. And there's Sipa in here, Martin's in here. There is a mind shift changing to can do, will do, must do, rather than putting up barriers that says, you know, actually here's a bit of regulation that says no. And we as leaders have to bulldoze all the way through all of that.
Steve, I completely agree with that take on things. I think there's a huge wealth of people out there that we can nurture. And I think my approach is to start early and bring in education. Do it through education and start in our schools, right from our primary schools. You know, that creativity that kids kind of lose. If I look at my 7-year-old, our whole house is just full of den. She's making things and doing stuff. That kind of gets knocked out of us a little bit. And if we can really, we have a fantastic education system in Scotland. We can bolt into that, schools, and then our universities, our colleges, the places people go to when they leave school. I think we've got to, from day one, we have to get that mindset into people's thinking. The guys in the public sector, I think, need to realise the cost and the value of what is going on. They don't at the moment. So that business thinking, people need to know the value of what this is all costing. Both us as workers in the system and our users, our patients, as an example in our work, have no Scooby as to the real cost is. So it's a business mindset. It's the kind of design, creative bit through education. I think we need to do.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think there's one down here as well.
At the front. Thank you. Again, if you just give us your name and organisation. Thank you.
Thanks. It's Grant Keenan from Keenan Recycling. Both tremendous examples of vision, particularly yours, Steve, on such a grand scale. I've got two questions. The first one is about the red carpet. Obviously, at that point, when you come under criticism, nobody could see what was going to come after that. How did you feel? Were you totally confident that you hadn't made a mistake? Another question is, how long does that take to hoover?
I was completely confident, and actually I I don't really worry if it didn't. What was the worst that was going to happen? So for me, I had enough, confidence in what was there and what we were doing would be so outrageous, so kind of just crazy that it would have an impact. From the old folks in the towers that sat, and they were vitriolic about that investment, saying this is going to bring people here. We don't want people here. And we're saying, well, trust us, it will. Crime will go down, your sense of crime. So this became a play area, and all of a sudden, those old women come out and say, do you know what, that was fantastic. So we did, even if it was stood alone as an investment, it worked. But this, this leverage, I think, has gone beyond our expectations. But I had real confidence it would work. The hoovering bit is actually, it's not a daft question. It has been a real pain in the arse to maintain. And actually, so we built it, and then we transferred it. It's now part of the estate of Glasgow City, and they haven't maintained it as well as they ought to. So now they're actually, right now, they're redoing it. And, and therefore, and this is true of all of our public realm. And this is about love. This isn't about infrastructure. This is about loving a place. And if the public don't love their places by maintaining them, then how can we expect the community? This place doesn't have any graffiti on it. It's actually just too well worn. So it needs. So we need to think when we deliver beautiful infrastructure that we'll get the right money to maintain it. Otherwise, it begins a degeneration cycle again. So it's actually a really important question about how do we get the most productivity out of public assets that deliver wider public benefit, economic, health, social, environmental. You have to think those through, over the long term.
And I think there's a question
Yes,
down here.
I think I could echo the same thing if you looked at Dundee. If you look back, I went to Dundee 20 years ago, and my colleagues were saying, you're crazy. It's a rundown city, there's not much going on. And then came this sort of life sciences development that's just picked us up. The thing that is really going to pick up Dundee is going to be the V&A Museum of Design, the building, the physical space. I think if you come to Dundee now, you'll see there's a buzz. There's a real buzz, and it's been driven by the arts and design side of things. It's not, the life sciences will grow, a lot of other things will grow, but on the back of that V&A icon, I think we're going to grow our economy. So art is so important.
Yeah, it's Scott McRae. I'm going to put my candidate ID hat on. The slide that you put up, Rod, about empathy really kind of resonated with me. I learned something earlier this week which really opened my eyes, which is that within 8 years, 75% of the workforce is going to be made up of millennials, okay? And more than 90% of millennials would rather work for an organisation that's got a great reputation rather than more money. So the world is shifting. The people world is shifting. And, I wanted to get both of your perspectives on, looking forward and how do you, drive that kind of interest for millennials in your organisations?
I think that's a great question, and it's actually a very real challenge. We are a public-owned body, but we work as a business. We see ourselves as a business that manages a public asset for the government. So everything we do is commercially driven. So all of this makes money for us. So when we look at our water, it's how do we generate value, how do we generate money? So it's all about the bottom line, because we know that the public sector cannot afford to sustain a canal system. It's a £1.75 billion liability that needs to be maintained, and the only way it can genuinely be sustained is to create wealth and capture wealth. So that's what we try to do from a business perspective. Therefore, to have business people who know business and can drive business, in a small public sector body, when they can earn 2 or 3 times easily the money that we can pay them, then you have to come up with something different. And that is, a sense of adventure, a sense of fun, a sense to be what they can be. Because, as I say, we'll never be able to compete on wages. But a sense of making a difference, a sense of legacy, a sense of change, in some of these places. Money can't buy that, and therefore we as an organisation thrive on that, and we have to get better at describing what it is we're doing. Very few people know we do this sort of stuff, and I take blame for that. So I need to do more of that to attract younger people in to sustain our workforce going forward.
Right. Well, do you want to say anything about that?
No, nothing more really. I think then just keeping an eye on the ball of the what the real financial challenges are for the likes of the health service. I mean, it's scary when you have a look at what lies ahead. And I think we've just got to be very creative and use different models of working to achieve what we need to achieve in the next few years quite quickly.
Okay. I think there's a couple of final questions, and then I think we need to round off this
Okay, we'll
session.
come over to this side of the room, and then folks, during lunch there's plenty of opportunities to ask some more questions, so make sure you grab everyone during lunch and have a chat. But if you can just give us your name down here, sir, and your question.
Chris Stewart Group. Steve, just a question for you about your relationship with Aviva. I mean, it seems to me that a lot of the big, whether it's LNG or the guys who are involved in King's Cross, placemaking is a huge driver for them now, and they have a different view of what is financeable. How important is that, approach to helping you deliver your vision? Can you maybe expand upon that relationship?
Yeah, I will. We've got multiple, we do many things through joint venture arrangements in different places. So in Edinburgh it's one vehicle, in Glasgow it's another, in Falkirk it's different. So we spend a lot of time and energy selecting a partner, because you want to know that that partner has the same vision and philosophy and approach as you do. So in North Glasgow, this is, there can be no riskier place to invest, serious amount of money, but you have to know that you're in it for the long term, that it's about creating value, that it's about early risk in order to get later reward. But you want to know that the people that you work with are as energetic, are as creative. And we formed a really effective team it's called Igloo, is the subset of Aviva. And at the end of the day, it's not about the money, it's about the people. And it's about, really making an effort. When you collaborate and partner in joint venture, spend loads of time making sure that when you go through the hard times, the story of the ladies earlier, this, when you're at its worst, that you can as partners put your arm around each other, when it's at its worst. You've got to know that before you sign up. And if you don't, then don't sign up. So partner selection is key, and then you know it's going to work. And gladly that's the place that we're in.
Okay, I think we've got one last question this side of the room here. And then we'll need to close, I think.
Could I just quickly add,
of course,
just that the long-term vision that you have to change these sort of juggernauts of the system I work in. The ideal world, to my mind, in the health service would be to depoliticize it and take it out of the hands of the cycle of we just don't know what's going to happen in the next election. We could have a completely different approach. If we had a more sort of Bank of England approach, that there's a steady ship for the next X number of years that is out. I hope there are not too many politicians here, but taking it out of their hands, still having their influence, but the long-term strategy needs to be more well-established.
thank you.
Hi
Sorry,
there. I'm Lorraine Carman from Developing Nation. Stephen, it was stunning. You mentioned something about the life expectancy of the people in North Glasgow being 57. Have you got things in place to measure the benefits now of what you're doing, and is there any results yet?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I mean, you'll know that Scotland is entirely mapped from indicators of multiple deprivation, so you can see a heat map. And the good thing about Scottish canals, and why I feel good about what we do, is that our canals run through the most challenged areas. But actually, there's been a mindset shift for me around stop calling these areas deprived, actually begin to talk about what are the strengths of these communities. Because the reality is, when I showed you that graph, North Glasgow was the economic hub. North Glasgow made Glasgow. The people who have been left behind are still there. Their forebears made Glasgow. So what we're asking them to do to be part of a future economic shift isn't something that is new to them. It's somewhere they've been before. But your point about measurement is key, and we work with the health bodies, so we can, for example, tell you the shift in behaviour of women in Maryhill. From again a no-go area. We had Red Bull doing this event. I don't know if anyone saw on social media, but Red Bull for the second year running held an elite sports event in the locks of Maryhill, swimming 580 metres up the lock systems. It's absolutely crazy mental. And what that's about is saying to people of Maryhill, the canal is a safe exercise place. It's about positive lifestyle. And by doing events like that, we're able to track that people are beginning to change their opinion. They're going for walks, they're going for cycles. And we know that women in particular feel much safer because of the visibility. And we can track through the World Health Organization model about the health benefits, direct health benefits in that area. So actually now we're beginning to have conversations with the health service that says, you should be investing in this. Invest in us. We will change the behaviours. You know, people will see things. They don't always listen to doctors or other people with suits telling them what to do. But you make a beautiful, safe, inviting place like Dundee is becoming. People will get out there. It's transformational.
Rod, do you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no doubt that this whole vision of spaces makes a big, big difference to the physical activity of people and the things that we can actually measure. The Scottish Government, Harry Burns had been the Chief Medical Officer, retired just recently, but he's taken on a huge project looking at just this, how we can actually measure change as a consequence of a whole lot of things that are going on. So there's real buy-in in Scotland that we are measuring this, and it takes a long time to actually come up with those figures, but it's happening.
Okay, on that note, I'd just like to say thank you both very much. Before you show your appreciation, I need to tell you a few things. Cabin crew have been busy. They're in the Strathearn suite, ready with your lunch. But I do need to have you all back here by 2:15, so if you can please return to your seats. I heard recently there was a great quote from Picasso, what's the hardest thing about being Picasso? And he said the hardest thing was to keep being Picasso, to hold on to that creativity and to not lose it. So I think we need to kind of ponder that, think about that creativity, and please engage with the guys over lunch. I know they're both here and looking forward to meeting you. Please join me in thanking them both.